Here we go, it's working. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this installment of Let's Talk Horses, Life and Living. I'm your podcast host. My name is Sarah Watt, and I have a returning guest this week, the amazing Ms. Viv Adcock. Welcome back to the poddy, Viv.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we were just laughing before we hit record because I'm living in the very southernmost part of Australia these days, and Viv is still on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, and you can see from her background and her beautiful tanned glow, and you look at me with my white pale skin, and if you could see outside of my house right now, you would see big puddles and lots of rain happening because spring in Tasmania is the wet season, so we get lots of rain here, which is also very nice. And, you know, we were sort of talking off air a little bit about the ebbs and flows of life. I'm going to kind of paraphrase what we were saying, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to lead into what I want to talk about on this podcast, because the ebbs and flows of life, you know, sometimes it's a very busy little thing that we do as our lives. Sometimes we're waking up every day and we fill our moments with creation and possibilities in the more, the more sort of actualization version of that. And then sometimes we take a breath and we pause. And I think probably the two of us, although I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I've been really dormant and quiet, but I would say these last few months here for me in Tassie has been some of the most quiet times for me. Just the space has been very different down here. And, you know, I've been watching you create because we work very closely, and we also work at arm's length on a lot of different things within Access Consciousness, this cool thing that we get to play and create with. And, you know, I really love to just have a chat to you about that, the pace of your life, the choices you're making, and the moment. And maybe there's been a moment recently, or maybe it's just been something that's been, you know, just quite natural that these pivots have happened. But sometimes when you're in life and you just kind of take this like about turn and you pivot somewhere else and you go off on this corner of your path, this meandering path takes a sharp turn or a soft turn in another direction. So do you want to just catch us up a little bit? What have you been up to these days, Vivi?
Yeah, I mean, goodness, I've been an Access Consciousness facilitator for 18 years, and there's definitely been a lot of ebbs and flows in that time. And you know, when I was, quote unquote, a few moons ago when I first began Access, I was a very, very, very different person. And it was all about, you know, full throttle. I ride motorbikes, so it's full throttle, top gear. You just throw everything you've got and ride into the corners really hard. And if you scrape yourself, you get back on, you know. And that was fine for the first while. And we went gangbusters with classes and people, and it was very successful. And then we went into the, you know, the ebb, the flow, whichever one it is, where things suddenly got quiet, and, you know, the heartbeat, that initial thrill, the exhilaration of, oh my God, I've got the best thing since sliced bread and I just want the whole world to know about this stuff. I think I realized it was a bit of a bumpy landing, that not everybody desires to have that sense of exhilaration and thrill of aliveness. You know, it's like most people are quite happy in their little space and doing what they're doing and having the predictability, which is cool too. And I kind of went into that more than I probably actually desired. It was like I allowed the external influences of my life, my marriage and other things to kind of take a bit more of a dominance, which, looking back, you know, it's you have this gift of awareness, you know, you choose and then you get the awareness after it. And so, but the cool thing about choice is you get to choose again. And so there's been ebbs and flows throughout my Access Consciousness career, if you want to call it that, where I've been overseas and facilitated classes in random places like Norway and Poland, you know, not places like America or Australia, or, you know, it's been these amazing countries that have a totally different language and way of being, which thrilled me. And more recently, Japan, you know. So there has been a choice more recently as to, right, it's time to really get in the saddle and really allow myself to trust and ride with no bridle, no control on life, you know, no control on consciousness. And I I have made a choice to just, okay, universe, leave me. I am doing the best that I can just to surrender all control and all expectation. And I'm just going to jump on this wild thing called consciousness and ride it and do my best to be in tune with it and follow its lead. So there are times when I have to take action, of course, to actualize things. But for the majority of the time, it's very much about relaxing into something and working a lot differently to how I was. So in a nutshell, that's where we're at now. And of course, classes have started popping up and people have been inviting me to facilitate. And there's been this really lovely generative energy in my life that I know hasn't been in my life in this way before, where the more I relax, the more I enjoy the ride, which is very similar to riding a horse. You're still present with it and you're still, you know, co-creating with it. You're not just letting go of the reins and letting the horse go where it wants, but you're a lot more at oneness. You're a lot more in communion with how, you know, the ebb and flows are going. So, and it gets you completely out of your head. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so when you were talking then about like kind of the difference in your creative like energy now, like where before it was, and you know, I can so relate to this, as I'm sure a lot of people can. It's like, and I don't know where it came from for you. For me, it was definitely growing up in a family where you worked in order to create anything. It required hard work to get there. And it was sort of just something that was very ingrained in me, that it's taken a lot of real cognitive and conscious work to change some of that as well. So like, what has it been like? Can you talk a little bit about how that feel, like how the difference feels in your world now? Like when you wake up in the morning, what do you know, how is your day? Like, how do you navigate your day? How does that look for you now?
Yeah, so how it used to be, it was always, always, always about somebody else, something else. It's like I just did not feature in my life at all. I got the little breadcrumbs on the side. And so when you talk about, you know, the environment that you've grown up with in, or how you've been trained to keep people happy or fit in or make life work, it was always, literally always about something or somebody else. And so that awareness of, okay, if the only person that's going to really create my life is me. And Gary gave me a clearing at one of the very first classes I ever went to. And it was to have an inclusive reality that includes me. And I'm like, what's he talking about? You know, I thought I was including myself, but nearly every choice that I had was always run through the filter of how this affects whoever it is that was in my life or whatever project I was involved in, or business or dynamic. It was never, okay, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? If I don't choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? So that's been a major turning point of just asking, okay, if I was including myself in this choice, what would I choose for me? And I know that probably sounds selfish to some people, but it's a totally different way when you choose from that place of, I'm still choosing from what will create greater. So it's not me, I, what do I get out of this and take from this that I win? It's about what can I choose that will create the greater possibility. And that includes everybody that I'm connected to as a ripple effect, you know, not directly, but as this flow on effect.
Yeah. And it's so interesting when you're talking because, you know, as a horse person or as horse people, how much my brain always goes to like horse training and interacting with horses. Because I often wonder that with our horses as well. I mean, unless you raise a horse from, you know, from a baby, you generally take on an animal that's had, you know, somewhere between 5, 10, 15 years or whatever of that, whatever upbringing they were exposed to. And it's so interesting how horses are very much the same, where they're such people pleasers. Like, it's so interesting where they're like, okay, there's a person in front of me. I know if I just do this job correctly, everything's going to be okay. They're going to be happy. Therefore, I'm going to be happy, and they're going to go away and leave me alone. And I can, you know, have my horsey, my non-human time of life. And I've really been playing a lot lately with, if we gave horses a voice, like what would they want to say, kind of thing. Like what have we never given horses a choice to say, that if we let them say it, they would say things that we're like, whoa, we never could have imagined that you actually cared that much about their life. I know that kind of sounds weird, but it's like, yeah, I don't know if you have something on that.
It doesn't sound weird at all to me whatsoever. You know, it's like, take the pressure off. Take the pressure off me. So horses, the moment you release pressure on them, the moment they give, they offer, you ask something of them, they give it, and you have that sense of timing with them, and you're so connected that the moment they get it, you take the pressure off, because that's a reward for them. So, you know, what if we took the pressure off ourselves? Yes, there's a different energy available when we get creative. There's a buzz and enthusiasm, and that is a generative energy, you know, and everything's just flowing along without you having to ride it all the time. But you're also not sitting back lazily, having no connection and no contact, and you're off in some other reality. There's this real sweet spot where you're really present with the energy and with the horse, or you and your projects, where everything has like this really, it's a gentle but dynamic heartbeat. There's a sense to that connection that's way beyond, I don't want to define it, I don't want to label it or anything, but there's that connection where everything is just relaxed, it's spacious, there's possibilities, and there's this, like you say, there is this communication where it's non-verbal, it's totally non-verbal, it's this energetic conversation that's going on backwards and forwards. So I think if the horses had a voice, for me, the number one thing is take the pressure off and stop forcing me, you know, stop pushing me around. Let me work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost like we go into like whatever horse training we use in this instance, but it's like whatever the projects you have at work, you know, your relationships or whatever, with these predetermined and preordained ideas about like how this moment is going to look, like how it should turn out. But it's like, what if we could even take the pressure off to a degree where we were willing to just be a little bit clueless, but also so curious about what was truly possible if we were approaching it from this place of like real curiosity. Like, I don't know, I find horses to be such curious creatures. Like they're always like curious about what's going on around them. They're kind of curious about us. They're like, you seem different today, or what's going on over here? Like this place where we really let go of that control that you talked about at the beginning, talking about where you're at in your life right now. And to whatever degree you're willing to do that, you start to see the opportunities in these different doorways open and these different things show up. It's like, what if then you went a little bit further and was even more willing to just let go of all of the things we've been told it takes to create something, and just see what shows up in a lot of ways as well. Yeah.
I used to, when I had my little quarter horse mare, I would go and spend maybe an hour or so with her on the way to work. So I had her registered at a property, you know, like a mile away from where I lived. And I'd always either take my breakfast and a change of clothes, and I'd just go and hang out with her, whether it was just sitting on the ground while she was eating a breakfast, or sometimes I might just jump on a bareback and ride through the trees, or we might go in the round yard and just do some groundwork and some games and stuff. But I noticed the days that I spent time with her before I went to clinic, I worked with people one-on-one, I was a very different energy. There was a lot more peace and relaxation in my world, and that kind of angst that I was functioning from in, I've got to get stuff done and I'm on a time schedule, because you can't do that with horses. You go in with an expectation and time schedule, they're just going to laugh their little hooves off at you. You know, it's like, really? You seriously think that's going to work with me? And it is. They take you into this space of no time if you're willing to receive that. And, you know, you heard this many times, Sarah, but Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, said if all the Access staff relaxed, Access would grow 75%. And the first time he ever said that, I've been in the question as to, okay, what does he know? What is he being? What is it that I can perceive that what space is it he's tapping into? What's he talking about? And so that one question has been that curiosity as to, and what you just mentioned about the horses being curious, it's exactly that, where we don't have to have a way or a method or a mean that has to be done or implemented in a certain way. We just discover. And that hour that I would spend with my horse, I would literally just be a blank slate and let her show me and invite me into something. It was just this total receiving where I've got no projected result or outcome that I'm expecting. It's just total receptivity and being.
Yeah. they're such an invitation in that way. And I think Frankie's joining the podcast. She's like, no, you're talking and this is all great, but why aren't you feeding me my dinner right now? Because basically it's dinner time, Mum. So cool. Let's shift gears a little bit here. There's two things I kind of want to ask you about now. So I'll start with El Lugar. So I didn't even realize this, but in a couple of weeks, you're taking your very first trip to this very magical place in Central America in a little baby country called Costa Rica. And if you don't know anything about Costa Rica, please just pause this podcast right now and go and Google this country, because it's this tiny little country right in the middle of Central America. It's bordered by the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, the Caribbean Sea and Pacific Ocean. Anyway, two oceans on either side of it. And it's this beautiful slice of paradise right in the middle of Central America where so many cool and magical things go on there. One of which being that they have a breed of horse that is specific to that region of the world called the Costa Ricense de Paso, which is a Spanish derivative. And if you guys are into horses, the Spanish breeds are some of the most beautiful breeds in the world. You know, these guys were the Andalusians before the Andalusians existed. And, well, maybe the Andalusians came from these horses. You know, your Spanish Pries, all of these beautiful dancing horses, all of these horses that present us with such magnificence and beauty, you get to experience in this part of the world as well. So go and explore Costa Rica. And if you can one day get there, and if you can get there, go to a little place called El Lugar, which is this friggin' epic. You know, if you've heard the podcast, I talk a lot about it on there. This amazing space. I mean, we call it a resort. We call it an eco resort because you've got to name things in this world so people have some sort of concept of what's going on there. But it's really defies explanation and definition as well. So talk a little bit about that, Viv. Like anything. Like what led you to choose to be there? Why now? What are you excited about? What is it looking like?
Yeah, there's so much that is, and it's just this energetic, tug and pull of magnitude in my world of I am required to be there for whatever that is for me, for the earth. I'm not sure, but I've learned over the last, handful of years to really surrender more and more in respect to listening to that energy and trusting it, even though it doesn't make any logical sense. It's like when I made this choice, or it was more a demand at the beginning of the year, I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to make this happen financially. But you know what? I don't give a shit if I've got the money or not. I'm registering. I'm going to start making payments on the class. I'm going to see what flights cost. And it's this choice by choice by choice moment. I didn't have the money to go, but I knew it's like, well, you've got, 8 months or whatever it is. What can I demand of myself that will actualize this? So it was kind of, I sort of tricked myself to step up a little bit, but there's just something, the horses at El Lugar, I've only ridden one Costa Ricense in Texas once before for 5 minutes, and it was such a different experience. It was like I had to throw out literally everything I've known about horse riding and start from scratch,
Wow.
And so I'm really excited to have some lessons and, hopefully spend some time with some cowboys and some locals over there that show me a totally different way. I want to get them to treat me as if I'm a rank beginner and I don't know the first thing, because I'd love to have a different kind of connection with an animal that I've always known is possible, that I haven't, apart from my mare, I haven't yet discovered that. And I know a lot of this is the old conditioning of you need to sit upright and your knees need to be here and your feet need to be here, and all that construct of the correct way to ride. It's like, no, I just want to be, like we talk about centaurs where the half human, half horse is, and it's like, yes, I would like to have that connection where there's no separation between me and the horse. And from what I've heard about El Lugar as well, it's like it's almost impossible to hold a judgment in place, because from what Dr. Dane here has been talking about, El Lugar has this incredible space that it invites you to beyond anything you've ever experienced. It's like this magical wonderland where you get to be. There's much less judgment, separation, conflict, internal discomfort. Sure, there's a there's going to be stuff coming up because I'm also attending the 6-day class, which is called, I think, Never Quit, Never Give In, Always Ask a Question. Never quit, never give in, never give up, always ask a question. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a class, this is a clarion call for all the conclusionistas out there, all the people that do conclusion, to get into question and to never give up on what it is that you know is available. So, and this is the journey of Olga that Gary and Dane have had for 10 or plus years of creating this resort. They have never given up, no matter what they face. It's like, okay, what else is possible?
Yeah. So when was it? I want to offer you a suggestion, but before I do, when was it that you first made the demand that you were going to get there?
Probably February this year.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. And actualizing it this year. Can I offer one suggestion / request one thing, and you can tell me to fuck off and choose whatever you want to choose. If I could suggest one thing, please, for your first ride on a Costa Sensei de Paso, don't talk to anyone or ask anyone's advice. Get on that fucking horse.
Okay.
And ask the horse to show you whatever it knows about, because they're so, Viv, the thing about these horses, you've never, well, I mean, you stepped on one, but the thing as well is I've ridden the Costa Sensei outside of Costa Rica, but a Costa Sensei in Costa Rica is not like a Costa Sensei in any other part of the world. Like, these horses are so connected to the planet and the earth there. You're going to get on this horse and it's going to feel like you're going to be like, I've never felt like, honestly, and pick a horse. Like, the one thing I think you should ask for help on is that first horse that you ride. Either ask the horse to show you. I mean, I have 2 horses there. You're more than welcome to ride one of mine. They're both absolutely beautiful. But pick a horse that's going to take care of you and show you things, and then just step on that horse and just go. And then if you feel like, now I want some advice, now I want to ask questions, but please, your first ride. I mean, I remember I rode Costa Senseis in, and it's so funny what you talked about. The first time I demanded and decided and chose I was going to Costa Rica was fucking like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago. I don't even remember. And I got a credit card and was like, I don't care. And I applied for a credit card. I was managing a dog boarding facility in Palau. I remember I applied for a credit card and I was like, I know this is stupid. I know this is not how you're meant to do things, borrow money in order to put yourself in debt, get a credit card. And I don't regret it for 1 second. Like, the first time I ever went, the first Costa Sensei horse I ever rode was this huge bay gelding. And literally all the cowboys back then, none of them spoke English anyway. And you'll find that at El Lagar, none of them speak English. So they're not going to be able to tell you anything. They're probably just going to but I got on this horse and I couldn't understand anything. And we would just go galloping through the Costa Rican jungle together. And I would step on this horse and honestly feel like a what are they called? Centurion or whatever.
Yeah, centaur. Yeah.
Well, please, for your first ride. And then, because I got my first Costa Sensei horse probably 7 years ago. And even that, my Pinto, who unfortunately I had to put to sleep just coming up to a year ago now, because he had really, really bad cancer. But when I first met him, like, talk about a horse, because even then, like, no one really spoke English. And the people that did speak English, I was like, I don't know if I really want riding advice off you, to be honest. Like, I think, and I remember every time I rode Pregonero, I would just ask him, I'm like, dude, is my body in a good position? Can you show me, like, how I should sit on you in order to feel, But anyway, there's some great horses there. So please, if I can contribute to that first ride, my only advice is pick a really good horse that's going to take care of you, and then just don't talk to anyone. Just get on and go for the ride, and because the jungle and where we go riding there as well. Yeah, and then go from there. But these horses will literally just download you with a billion pictures and information as you're riding them. They'll take the best care of you. I mean, sometimes you're riding down these, and you can perceive everyone around you like freaking, and these horses are just like, they'll slide in the mud, they'll just lock their knees out and start sliding down the hill. They know exactly what they're doing. Like, it's just truly phenomenal. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm just going to be like, you'll be like, someone's watching me. And then you'll be like, Sarah, is that you in the bushes? And I'll be like, just peeking through just to see, you know, when you get to see something for the first time, I mean, see something in someone's eyes when they're seeing it for the first time. Like, dude, you're just going to be like, it's, you're going to walk away from that week so changed. And I would hazard a guess that you'll be very addicted to the country and the horses there and the people. I mean, so anyway, I think I'm such an advocate for the place, for El Lugar, for Costa Rica, for the Costa Ricense. I'm like, if there's one thing on your bucket list in this lifetime, get over there, and if you can, get to El Lugar and ride one of these horses as well. But
and you don't have to be a horse rider. You know, I've seen so many people never, ever, ever even sat on a horse before, and they go for a ride here. So if anybody is watching this and you're terrified of horses, or your excuses, I've never sat on a horse or ride a horse, what if that was no longer an excuse and you just allowed yourself the experience? And I get, for me, El Lugar is an experience that you will not find anywhere else on the face of this planet, truly. And that's just from me talking to people and seeing the photographs and videos. And I've just been on certified facilitator training online and being part of the class and watching the photographs from everybody there having an amazing time horse riding and swimming in the pool and going on river rafting and doing all sorts of stuff, bird watching. And it's just, I'm like, it's 16 sleeps. I know it, I shouldn't, but I am. I'm counting down because I am so thrilled to be going and finally and visiting this magical place.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to just watch you and see your reactions to everything there. It's like, it truly is a very, very, very special place. And then the one other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was the talk to the animals specialty. I mean, you've been on my podcast before, but I don't think we've ever really delved into this. And I've been watching also what you've been creating with that. I mean, that was the class that you just facilitated in Japan, right? Like, maybe if you could talk a little bit about what it is, like what is the talk to the animals class, and how is it facilitating it in a country like Japan? Like,
it was incredible. So I talk to the animals. I mean, if I had to kind of give some kind of essence of what it is, I get that most people that choose talk to the animals, what they're asking for that they don't know they're asking for is to really hone their energetic conversation, their telepathic abilities, communication, whatever you want to call that, where you begin to really discover and have fun and explore the capacity you have with energetic communication and what you're picking up, you know, what you're perceiving and the unique way that you do it, because there is no right or wrong way to do animal communication. And that flows into everything, whether you want to talk to your house or your business or your finances or your body, or, you know, everything is consciousness. Every single thing is consciousness. My computer is consciousness, you know, so you get to communicate energetically to every molecule. And so we kind of use people come because they've got animals, and they think the main thing is they want to talk to their animals, but they walk away with a billion times more than that. And Japan was really interesting because ironically we had 16 people in the class and I think 2 of them had animals.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, and very few of these people, I think there were probably 4 of them have taken a bars class and that was it. The rest were brand spanking new to access. And the first day they were all kind of a bit, not one of them spoke, you know, I mean, the whole class was delivered with translation, Japanese translation. But they were absolutely eyes on me the whole time. They were present for the entire class. Day 2, they came in completely different people. And it was just phenomenal to see the transformation from the morning of day 1, even just to the morning of day 2. And usually what we do with the Talk to the Animals, Start the Conversation class, which is a 2-day class, we go to an animal venue where people get to talk to animals and be with them, even over a fence. But because we were kind of in an area in Japan where there are no animals, we had a stray cat that was, you know, hanging around the house strangely for the weekend. And we had a little pony that we went and visited on the Saturday afternoon. And this little pony was a magician with what it contributed to the class. It was worth going to. You know, this little pony contributed to probably what a farm would contribute to people, talking from an animal space. Mocha was his name, cute little like 12, 13 hand pony. And he just was such a gift to everybody. I mean, some of these people were terrified of even going near an animal. You know, a lot of Japanese people don't have access to animals because of their lifestyle, you know. So it was a very different class, but I was like a celebrity at the end of the 2 days. They all wanted their photograph taken with me, and then I had to autograph all their manuals, and they didn't want to go, and they kept hugging me and crying, and I'm like, oh man, how does it get better than this? So that was Japan. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was an absolute gift to go there and an honor to facilitate these beautiful people.
That's so cool. And what would you say, like, when you have people coming to these classes, you mentioned like a lot of them come because they want to communicate with their animals. What do you think is the main thing that people want to know?
I think they just want to know if they're doing the right thing. You know, is there anything that they can do to make their animal happier? They just genuinely are, they're really curious about the happiness and the well-being of their animal. Yeah. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that, you know, mistreat animals or abuse animals. And these people that choose these classes, it's like, yes, they think they're coming for their animals, which they are. But like I say, they walk away with so much more than that.
And because I totally could have guessed that. I mean, I've worked with animal communicators before, mostly for my horses. But I'm kind of like, I just want to know, what else do I need to do to make their lives better? Like, it's so interesting that I think that's a very, like a caring point of view to have, that we want to do the best by them. But now my other question is, what is the main message that the animals want to give to us? Like, is there a theme there with what they actually come to the class?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah. And a lot of them, just like you said earlier, they desire us to know that they so desire to communicate with us. Yeah. You know, you've got this incredible sentient being in front of you, and most people don't receive their being at all. They just see the body. They see that, you know, it's a dog or it's a cat, but they each have their own unique personalities. They have their own quirky senses of humor. You know, they all are so different. And I really get their being desires to be truly received and connected to and cared for, as you would, you know, you would hope somebody would do and be that for you. Whereas a lot of them, all of that's neglected, like people, you know, unless you're really genuinely interested in somebody. I think it's just this kind of surface level, skimming the surface of what's actually available and possible when you can really be present with somebody and you do have that genuine interest and care.
Yeah. And it's so cool to perceive like what they're willing to show us. Like, because, you know, you look at like our planet and how there's certain creatures, there's certain species of animals that we've spent a lot of time with over the last, you know, decades and centuries, where we've formed these bonds with them for many different reasons as well. Like, a lot of them have been working relationships and stuff like that as well. But it's so interesting when you start to just dig below that surface a little bit and really see like how they truly function, and how much that's also how we truly function. And they so desire, like you said, they so desire for us to just be a part of that with them. Like, you know, when you take something that's nonverbal and you start to be interested, be curious about their world, and start however you choose to do it, whether it's through science, because there's a lot science these days. There is a lot that science these days is showing us about animal communication too, right? Like, we're really getting out of this like dominance theory mentality, and, you know, you have to be dominant over the horse, and you're like, even science has debunked that it's not actually true to have communion with an animal. You know, dominating it never creates that. So whatever path you choose, it just always warms my heart to know that however you choose to go about it, you desire to step into their world and be a part of where they function from, rather than always being like, hey, come to the human side. I will feed you. I will make sure you have the best vet care and a roof over your head, which is obviously important. They love that and they want to be taken care of. But it's like, sometimes I feel like that's just the tippy tip of the iceberg, and all of the things that go on in their world. Like, I don't know about you. I mean, I've got 2 dogs now and my 3 horses, but sometimes I just sit and just watch my dogs play, and just the way that they like, there's such a dance of energy in the way that they communicate with each other, and what each little growl means and what each body movement means to them is so, it's so intricate and it's so interesting.
Yeah, and one of my favorite pastimes is watching dogs meet each other as well. I mean, because you don't see cats being walked up and down the street all the time or running around on the beach. I love sitting and watching dogs meeting and playing, and same thing, that the instantaneous interaction that they have from, you know, miles apart, not even just having to sniff bums, but from a long way off, you know. And if we had more of that perception in our own world, how different would our own life be as well? So, you know, this is one of the side effects of the talk to the animals, is your awareness and your ability to perceive energy and have clarity with that exponentializes as well. And the other thing I just wanted to add to this too is, you know, people say, well, what's the point? What's the value of talking to an animal? And it's like, well, yes, it's about talking to the animal, but when you receive them energetically, it's not necessarily about our verbal communication like we're doing now. It's the whole other realm, the invisible, unspoken, unheard realm that is going on all the time within the animal kingdom, on the earth, with the plants, everything.
Yeah.
And when you have that connection, if there's anything going to happen in the future, if there's going to be a disease, if there's going to be an illness or whatever, you have the possibility to perceive that before it comes into physical reality. Yeah. And so this is where awareness is our greatest insurance. If we're aware of, I'm not going to take my dog to the park today, you know, and then you hear that there's been a massive dog fight and one of the dogs got carted off to the vets, or the animals have that perception of the future. And so how can we also reactivate and claim our ability to perceive the future too?
Yeah. And I mean, for me as well, it's like, you know, when people are like, well, why would I want to include animal communication? It's like if you go to learn another language or anything, but using language as an example this time, you know, you want to learn Spanish or Italian, you go and learn that language in order to be able to speak that language. Well, then you open up, like, it's not just now you speak another language, now you have a whole access to a whole culture, a whole history, a whole world becomes, it's not like, oh, you just learn a language and that's all you do. You step into that part of like history, that part of the world. And I think when you're willing to communicate with animals, you open something much bigger than just one language, because then you communicate in the language of energy, which is like exactly like you said, it's the first language of everything that we share this planet with, because we're all made of the same thing. We're all come from the same place. We're all made of the same molecules and particles. So it's really more just, like you said, it's more really increasing your energetic capacities more than learning to talk to animals, which sounds so simplistic in some ways, when it's really so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful.
I have one question. Yeah. What was I going to ask you then? It was about, so do you have a couple, like, without giving away what you guys cover in the classes, because I would also love to suggest to anyone to get along to one, like, what are some little pointers that you have for people that desire to start this journey?
Well, I think, you know, one of the easiest things to roll off my tongue, but not so necessarily easy if it's your first experience, is to learn to ask a question that really opens up your awareness. Because, you know, most people suddenly start looking at their animals when something's wrong, you know, or they're sick or injured. Up until that point, they haven't really, I don't know, gotten present with the with the animal or the situation that they're living in. So asking a question it's kind of like an art form, where you're not coming in with a conclusion already and you're kind of pretending that you're asking a question, because you've already decided what the answer is, or you're attached to the result. And so really to have a totally clean space to truly ask a question and reach into the animal's world from that place of curiosity, that you were just talking about that's the absolute beginning to everything, that there's no conclusion that you're functioning from, or no assumption, or no past reference point or old story that's tainting your capacity to really ask an opening question.
Do you have any do you have one or two questions that you would suggest that people could start with?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the ones that comes up regularly in sessions with me is, people, if their animal's body has got something quote unquote wrong with them, they go straight to talking to the dog, what's wrong. Number one, what if it's not a problem and it's not wrong? And number two, talking to the animal's body.
Yeah.
Talk to the animal's body. So, if you ask the being's like, oh, fine, like, it could have had a massive dog bite or its legs hanging off or whatever. They've got no point of view about that. They're still, let's chase the frisbee, they're still being a dog. But if you ask their body how their body's doing and you start communicating with their body, that's a really big difference, because what you're going to get from their joyfulness is going to be a very different story to talking to their body if they're injured or sick or there's something going on for them. So just knowing that there's a difference between that. We're not just lumping the whole thing together. So number one, what if there's nothing wrong and it's not a problem? Because the animal won't see it that way. It doesn't have that judgment or the conclusion that there's something wrong with it. Yeah, it might be uncomfortable or licking a wound, or, its leg might be facing a different way or whatever, but they don't ever see that as a problem. They just carry on being whatever animal they are to the best that they can. Yeah.
I love that. And it's so funny how things all tie together, right? Because at the beginning of this, we really talked about this energy as well, of getting out of your own way and being curious and not having conclusions and not that we put it in these words, but not having expectations and projections of yourself. And, I love this, how we're wrapping this podcast up, because if there's some of the best teachers of this in the world is nature and animals, and I think specifically animals that we've domesticated because we have such good access to them. But nature's such a good teacher of this as well. But yeah, this thing of like where, your animals actually function how we're designed to function, that we only have problems because we create them as problems, like where we have this world that is so boxed in and linear compared to what they are, where it's like you ask your dog, oh no, what's wrong? They don't have an answer for that because they don't know what wrong means. Like at the moment, I'm going through a big thing with Cash. He's just been diagnosed with quite a like sort of serious, well, I don't know what you kind of try to explain it to people, but he's got this condition with his cartilage in his shoulders. So we've got some surgery coming up on Friday that I just chose to book because, we tried many other things. We tried alternative therapies and we've done body work and we've done lots of clearings. And I have a pretty clear sense of like what's going on with his body, but it's not fixing it. It's not changing. And I see him fucking run around the house like he does not pay his own vet bills, and then 5 minutes later he's like limping, dead, off, and I'm like, but in his world he's like, but this is me now. Until you choose to take me to surgery and fix this because that's what you want to do, he would live the rest of his life like this until he died. He's like, oh my God. And it's also really interesting because he's a purebred, right? Like he came with papers and he's bred from very good stock, and I so respect his breed. I'm so happy that he came into my life, and I'm just enamored by his breed. I'm enamored by him, but I'm learning so much about these projections that we have on these animals and like where they're deemed to not be in the pedigree status anymore because they've got this thing that's come up in their body or they've created their body a certain way. And it's, anyway, without going down a whole nother rabbit hole right at the end of this podcast.
That's a whole other podcast, Sarah.
Let's talk about that on the next one. Because I saw you and Susie. I was going to try and jump on your call. I know you guys did something recently where it's like, my pet is sick. What do I need to do? And I was going to come on and be like, help. But, talking to other dog owners, like I was talking to someone today who also owns pure breed, like a pedigree breed of dog. And she lost a dog when it was very young from a genetic congenital disease. And it was so interesting to talk to someone and just be very candid because we work and live in this world of consciousness, right? You, me, a lot of people we know are striving for more consciousness, more magic. And the amount of times I've been like, well, I can't be magic. My dog's like fucked and got this condition that I can't fix with. And she was the same. She's like, Sarah, I was at a maestro class. So this maestro is a class in Access where we play in some really cool and very different realms of magic and possibility. And she's like, I was at this class in Rome and my dog's at home dying. And I'm like, well, I don't deserve to be in a maestro class. So anyway, maybe we'll just leave that as a cliffhanger, and maybe you and me catch up again in a couple of weeks and talk about how wrong do we make ourselves when our animals.
Well, I can add to that, because I don't know if you ever met Mia, who was my original dog before the greyhound. She was a black shepherd cross Labrador. And
I'm not sure if I did. Maybe I did, but anyway.
Yeah, well, she began my entire journey with all of this, and I'm hearing echoes of her in my head as you're talking about Cash now, because I just, when she was first diagnosed, she had something similar going on with one of these, no cartilage in the joints, and her whole body, her whole body's going to be riddled with it, and you might have to have a leg chopped off, and then you might have to put her down early. And I'm like, no, not happening. Yeah. And she was my doorway into discovering, basically, Talk to the Animals, and how she led me into this whole new realm of something that I used to dream about as a kid, but I thought was fantasy land, Black Beauty and Lassie and Skippy and all these amazing animal shows where people have this oneness. And here she was right in front of me. And so I've got lots to share about my journey with her. And she lived to the ripe old age of, I think she was almost 12, which is quite a good age for a shepherd, a German shepherd. And she kept all her limbs. She lived a perfectly happy life. We had to monitor that she didn't run around too much. But she lived a perfectly happy, long life. We never had to have surgery for her. And it was an incredible, incredible journey.
Wow. And so then we'll leave you with one more question then. When something comes up like this and you automatically go to what's wrong with me, what's wrong with my dog, what if you ask a question like, what's right about this that I'm not getting? Because maybe your dog is prepared to not have a point of view about what's showing up in their body in order to invite you to a whole different possibility. Like, talk about a dog that was willing to put her body on the line in order to, and you hear so many of these stories with people, especially in the horse industry, that really go down the path of horse first training protocols, better hoof trimming, better nutrition, because their horses basically come to them to show them a realm and a world beyond the world that we've been told is what exists. And it's also what we teach and what we facilitate in Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, which is another class that we talk about a lot on this podcast too, where, these animals come into our worlds to literally teach us things and not have a point of view if their body is the thing that comes here to do it. So, another cool question I'd love to leave you guys with is, when something feels wrong in your world, whether it's with you or something or someone else, what if you ask a question like, what's right about this that I'm not getting?
And what if you're nowhere near as fucked up as you think you are?
What? But I'm pretty fucked up. Let's be honest. Come on. Thank you so much, my love. Thank you for being here with me.
You are most welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, past, present, and future. Hello, the future. And I will see your wonderfulness in Olga, Sarah. I'm very much looking forward to it. 16 sleeps,
you tell me. 16 sleeps. I love it. I can't wait. I'm going to just be your little soft stalker in the background. You'll see me popping up around the place.
Well, you've got less sleeps because you're facilitating a Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider class, so you'll be there before me.
I think I leave in 12 days or something like that. So I'm very excited to see my two boys over there, my big boys, my two geldings that I have in Costa Rica, and go riding and be crazy through the Costa Rican jungle. I can't wait. And I can't wait to see you there. So thank you again. Thank you for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.